Hi everyone, thanks for coming today. My name is Deena, I'm a designer, and the first thing I made when I got to design school was a tissue box. So I carry tissues around with me everywhere, and they always end up completely squashed and dirty. This guy is the culprit. The sticky thing doesn't stick anymore once you've opened and closed it a few times. So for my first project, I designed a home for little tissues. Fast forward 10 years later, and I'm now using my design background to help fight climate change. So today I want to tell you my story of how I got from tissues to climate change, because this journey led me to a new and powerful approach to design and solving problems. Back to the tissues. This project, as basic as it was, really encapsulated what drew me into design as a career. I had all of these ideas for products that would solve many of life's everyday problems, and I wanted to make them. But it turned out that I actually wasn't very good at making things. In our first week at school, we had to build something out of only foam core and rubber bands that you had to activate by cutting a string, and it needed to cause a ball to bounce over a series of tables exactly 7 times. Yes. And I watched in awe as my classmates around me started to create these beautiful, complex contraptions, and my heart just sunk because my mind just doesn't work like that. And you can see that my first attempts were a bit different. But I didn't just curl up in a ball and cry. Well, I did, but after that, I decided to look at the problem in a new way, because I knew that if I was going to solve it, I'd need to do it differently. So I took the materials given to us and I built an animation machine called a zoetrope that you activated by cutting a string, and it spun around to bounce an animated ball over a series of tables exactly 7 times. And luckily, my professors encouraged this reinterpretation of the rules. And so I carried on, and although I got a lot better at making things along the way, my initial dream of bringing forth products into the world had changed. I had changed. I used to be inspired by all of the everyday problems that I experienced personally, and I still was, but my world had broadened. This was 10 years ago, and there was just starting to be a shift in thinking in the design world. We were all starting to learn more about our impact on the planet, and the goal of making more products became a little ethically ambiguous. And so over time, I parted ways with my initial dream of product design, and with it, the traditional path of a product designer. Because the traditional approach to solving problems has generally been to create new technologies, to change the products. What I want to talk to you about today is a different approach. Instead of changing the products, we can change the people who are using the products. Instead of designing the physical things, we can design to impact the behavior of the people who are using the things. And thanks to the field of behavioral science, we actually know quite a lot about what makes people behave the way they do. The advertising industry has been capitalizing on this knowledge for decades to get us to buy more stuff. Well, why can't we use these same techniques but apply them to solve bigger problems like saving the planet? Perhaps it was fate that my journey as a designer led me to cross paths with 2 guys who were starting a company to do exactly that. The company is called O-Power, and their mission is to fight climate change by tackling the problem of energy waste. $400 billion worth of energy is wasted every year, and O-Power had a completely different approach to solving the problem. Because this was the traditional approach, to focus on the products, the technology. And this is their approach, to focus on the people, each one of us sitting here today, and how we use energy. Several years ago, a leading behavioral scientist, Dr. Robert Cialdini, set out to find an answer to the question, what would make people use less energy? He started by asking people, why is it important to save energy? And 3 themes emerged. People said that saving money, helping the environment, and being a good citizen were all very important reasons that would cause them to use less energy. So he went out and he tested this. He and his team went around to a few thousand homes. They printed these messages on door hangers, and they placed these door hangers on people's doors. And then they came back later to check the electric meters to measure which message has the biggest impact on energy use. Now, for those of you who have not heard this story before, I'd like you to guess. How many of you think the first message, saving money, had the biggest impact? Okay, how about helping the environment? And how about being a good citizen? Well, the answer is that none of these messages had any impact whatsoever. But there was a 4th message. And this one said, did you know that most of your neighbors use less energy than you? And this message caused people to use 6% less energy. So O-Power's big idea was, what if we could take this experiment and roll it out all over the world? They couldn't send Cialdini and his team to millions of homes knocking on doors and reading electricity meters, but they could do it another way. Their idea was to work with utility companies to get people's energy data and to reach people by sending them energy reports in the mail. But before they could do this, they needed to transform Cialdini's door hanger into something that could reach millions of people and change their hearts and minds every time. And this is where I and design came in. Because the insight can only get us so far. If someone hand delivers something to your door, like Cialdini did, you're going to pay attention. But when working on a larger scale, you have to be more thoughtful. This is an example of one of our products, a home energy report that people receive in the mail. Every aspect of this report has been carefully designed, every word, every image, every color, to ensure that people want to engage with it. Because we have an extra design challenge. Our goal goes beyond people using our products. We need to use design to get people to pay attention and make changes in their lives, completely outside of our products. Fast forward to 7 years after I met O-Power, and we've now saved 400 billion kilowatt hours of energy using this approach, which is enough energy to power a city the size of Utrecht for 4 years. We didn't make or change any things to accomplish this. We changed the people. And so for me, as a designer who wants to make a difference in the world without making more stuff, this approach is a perfect fit. And it has so much more untapped potential, even with climate change. I learned last year that the fastest way to impact climate change might not be to waste less energy, but to eat less meat. Over 1/5 of all greenhouse gas emissions come from the livestock industry, which means that if we substituted even a small amount of our diet for non-meat alternatives, we could have a huge impact. So I was thinking, how could we use the same approach that O-Power uses to save energy to get people to eat less meat? One idea, what if our grocery store receipts showed us how our purchases compare to the average? And there are many other techniques from behavioral science besides this comparison-based technique. Behavioral science also tells us that we are much more likely to stick with the first choice that is given to us, the default. Well, what if we offered non-meat options as the default on restaurant menus, on wedding invitations, on airplanes? When booking your flight, instead of needing to select vegetarian as the special meal, why not ask people to select meat as the exception? It's a subtle shift, but subtle shifts can be quite powerful in aggregate. And this is what I really want you to take away. Because my talk today is not about climate change. It's about this approach, which can be applied to many problems. And the power of this approach is that very small steps, like turning off the lights or eating meat just a few less times a week, these small steps can be encouraged on a worldwide scale and can add up to have incredibly dramatic results. So the last thought I want to leave you with is, when you're thinking about the problem you're most passionate about, consider reinterpreting the rules. Think about how you can solve your problem not only by changing tangible things, but by altering the behavior of people. Your approach to fixing the broken tissue boxes of the world might be amazing, but if your problem involves people at all, you may have another powerful tool in your arsenal to help change the world. And if I can leave you with a second last thought, consider ordering vegetarian tonight. It's pretty good for the planet. Thank you.